Mike Owens here with Vicente the Silent Assassin Luque, number 6 ranked welterweight contender who's facing Geoff Neal on the 6th of August. Vicente, great to sit down and chat. How are things at you today?
What's up, man? Everything going good. Camp has been great here in Florida this time. Most of the end of my camp over here. So yeah, everything going as planned.
Look, Vicente, it's no secret how big of a gym Sanford MMA has become. Virtually, it feels like there's 10 fighters in every division in the UFC there right now. But what makes it such a special gym? Why did you decide to finish your camp there?
I don't know. I think it's many different reasons. I think one definitely a fact is like everybody that is there. So at welterweight, we have, I think, maybe like 5 guys that are in the top 15. And, so much more talent that is coming up from other shows. And, we got Jason Jackson, who just won, in Bellator. We got the interim champion with Logan. And, so much talent training together. So that's one thing. And also the coaches, I think that one of the best coaches in the world, Henry Hooft, he heads, he's the head coach of the team. Then we have Greg Jones with the wrestling. Also, like other guys like Nick Lenz, that now is also a trainer, and Kami Barzini, Saeed, so many different guys that are working over there in different aspects of the game, and it just makes it, a complete team. We have everything we need, even though it's a packed mat. Everybody gets attention. Everybody gets, to develop their own game in their own kind of unique style and compete at the high level. So I think all of this makes it, definitely one of the best, if not the best team in the world. And the facility as well, I think that helps a lot. It's a great facility, a big mat, octagon. We have a gym right next to it to do, strength and conditioning. So yeah, I think it's a lot of good things put together in one spot.
I think when I think about Sanford MMA, if I kind of had to think about the division where the most fighters are from, it probably is your division, probably is welterweight, with yourself, with Gilbert, with Kamaru, Danny Roberts is there now, Ian Gary, the list goes on. Who's been the main body? Who's been the man pretending to be or emulating Geoff Neal's style for you in this training camp?
So I've been working a lot with the southpaw. So Danny has been a big guy, that helped me out a lot because he's a great southpaw. He has that great striking, and so he has been helping me out. And also Sato. Sato will be fighting on the same night as me, so we're kind of like in the same timeline. Physically, we are both in shape. So he has been helping me a lot also because he's southpaw as well. So yeah, I've been, working especially with these 2 guys because of the reason. I mean, Geoff Neal is a southpaw guy. It's always tricky to fight southpaw. So I want to make sure that I get that real, like realistic feel how a southpaw works.
When you look at Geoff Neal as an opponent, what does he do well? What do you think are his key kind of attributes, his key parts of his skill set?
I think he knows very well what he needs to do in a fight, and he just pushes forward. And I think that's, in a way, a similar style to me. It's keeping it simple, but going at it, actually fighting. And that's what I think that is his biggest tool. And at the same time, what excites me the most about this fight, I know that he's going to come to fight. And that's something I enjoy. That's a challenge, for me, is I know that he's going to want to take my head off. He's going to want to knock me out because he trusts on his power. He trusts on his game. And that's the same what I'm going to be looking to do in that fight. So this is a fight that excites me. And I think the trickiest thing he has going for him is the fact that he's a southpaw. But I think it's going to be maybe the 6th or 5th southpaw that I'm going to fight in the UFC. So it's something that I've been in there with a lot of southpaws. I know how to work through that. It's always tricky, but it's something that I've kind of like lived before.
So if I was going to fight Vicente Luque, and before I say this, I mean, I would never want to fight you. I consider us friends, but in the unlikely event that we ever had a fight, I would try and in some way try and get you to the ground and get away from those knockout power in those 2 hands. But Geoff Neal is also a striker, so do you anticipate he's going to want to get you to the ground, or do you expect him to stand and bang and really try to you on the feet?
I do anticipate that we're gonna strike. I do think that his style and who he is, at least as a fighter, when I watch him, I like to watch his fights.
Mm.
I think he's not the guy to shy out from a good striking battle. So I think he will come to that, to try to knock me out and see what's gonna happen. But at the same time, after my last fight, I started to realize, these guys are studying me. These guys
Mhm.
are making sure that they find a way to beat me. And like you said, I think the way to beat me, not necessarily is only to put me on the ground, but is to not fight, not let me fight.
Yeah.
So if we go into exchange in striking, or even we get into a grappling exchange, I'm very dangerous in any of those situations because I'm able to find spots and opportunities to finish the fight. So I think what I saw that Bilal, I watched that fight a lot against Bilal, and I saw like he was able to make the fight, not let me fight, not let me put on the pressure at any moment, and not find my rhythm.
Mm.
So that's something that I'm definitely looking to just get ready for that. Maybe guys are just gonna start taking that route against me, and what I gotta do is up the pressure. Make sure that I'm not as strategical as I want to be. Sometimes I maybe just gotta push the pace, go out there, maybe risk getting hit a little bit or risk getting taken down, but work for submission, work for something that is gonna make the fight decisive. My last loss definitely taught me a lot of how the division sees me. I think
Mhm.
now they know that I'm dangerous, so they're gonna try to fight me in a way that trying to get out of that danger zone.
I wanted to talk about the Bilal fighters, and as you mentioned, you're coming off a loss in your last fight against Bilal Muhammad. And kind of the question I wanted to ask was, what was the biggest lesson you learned? But you've already kind of given me that. So I guess what I'd like to ask in your mind, is the way to beat Vicente Luque to not fight you? And what I mean by that is to not be in fighting range, to kind of be in maybe either a nearer range on the ground or in the clinch, or in a further way away. Is the key to not be in the firefight with Vicente Luque, almost?
Yeah, I would say I would definitely say that because I know at this point of my career, I've trained so many different things and developed my tools into where I really feel comfortable, be it on the ground or be it standing up. But when guys are just not gonna let me flow in a say, or I'm gonna, maybe worry about the takedown or worry about something, and I don't permit myself to flow, that's whenever kind of like things go wrong for me,
Mm.
and I'm not able to just put my style out there. So I think that the way to beat me is that not let me feel comfortable in a way where I can just go and fight the way I want. With that said, that was the lesson that I had. I gotta feel comfortable regardless, and that's something that it took me a while, but now I know that I have the skills in every aspect of the game to face anybody. So I don't gotta be striking and worrying about a takedown. If you take me down, good for you. I'm gonna do something.
Mm.
I'll work out of my back and try to submit you, or I'll get up and I'll put pressure. I was I believe I was too strategical in that fight against Bilal, and that was something that when I watch back all my fights, that's something I did after this fight. I watched all of my fights back. Always, whenever I put out my aggression and I go out there and fight, kind of in a risky way,
Mm.
that's positive for me. I thrive in chaos. I like that situation, so that's where I got to fight. Not too much intelligence and strategy, a little bit, but not too much.
You just said that you went back and you watched your catalog back, your UFC catalog back. If I had a new fan who'd never watched a Vicente Luque fight, and I said I'm going to make this guy an instant fan of Vicente Luque, what fight do you pick to show him to make him an instant fan of your style?
Man, I would put two fights, Barberina and Mike Perry. But my favorite one is with Barberina because just the way the fight went, I started off really well. I got knocked down in the
Mm.
first round. Then second round, I kind of got a little beat up, and then I knocked Barberina down in the finishing seconds of the second round. And then third round was really tight. I think I was losing that fight on the
Yeah.
on the scorecard, and right at the end, I got the knockout, 6 seconds to finish the fight. I think at the time we had kind of like most shots connected in a 3 round fight.
Mm.
And yeah, I would put that fight for sure. That fight is an awesome fight to watch.
I think that's the best fight to watch, but my favorite fight of yours is the Chiesa finish. I don't know why.
Oh yeah,
I think maybe the start,
yeah.
and then after the knockdown, and then escaping his choke and then choking him out. It's my favorite of yours, but they're all fantastic in their own right. But if we talk about the last fight against Bilal just for a second, it was your first UFC main event. Now I know with your style, it's not really a style for points; it's a style for finishes. So I don't anticipate it was a gas issue. But do you think the pressure of being the main event, of extra media, of extra obligations, of extra pressure, did that have any effect on your performance, do you think?
I wouldn't say it had a negative effect, but definitely it was something new. So I
Mm,
had to kind of see how that was going to go on, especially fighting 5 rounds. I have a style that I just put on the pressure and I try to break my opponent down with my pressure.
mm,
And I had never done that through 5 rounds. I had never fought 5 rounds, so I didn't know how it was going to feel. And that's something I had in my mind going into the fight, because training camp was great. I felt really good physically and strength conditioning, all this. I really felt really good, but I had never lived it inside the octagon. So that was something that I still had a little bit, maybe I held myself back just a little bit, concerned about the last 2 rounds. And that's when I opened it up, after the 3 rounds went down and I was gonna go into the fourth. I felt good. I felt fresh. So that's when I said, okay, I'm good to do this. Let's just fight. But now with the experience I have, I know I could go in there and just do what I do, put on the pressure. And the other guy's going to get tired as well with the kind of fight I put on. So it's not something I got to be concerned. So, yeah, in a way, it kind of was something different. I don't think it took so much away from my performance, but now that I know how it feels, it will definitely, just be better, because I know how it is. I'll just go in there and not worry about anything.
of course. As I mentioned at the top of the show, you're number 6 in the world in the welterweight division. You're fighting Jeff Neal, who's number 14. So of course you get your win. You get a chance to get back in the win column, and you obviously get the pay. But in terms of getting back to a title fight, getting back into the real top end of the division, what's the biggest thing to gain from this matchup, in your opinion?
Uh, I think that the main thing is to get back to fighting and get back, to winning.
Mm,
Uh, After the fight with Bilal, I felt fresh. I had no injury. I had nothing that kind of prevented me, to getting right back into fighting. That's why I decided to get this fight as soon as I could and just step in there again, because I really feel great. I feel evolving every single fight. I feel like my game is just getting better. I'm getting more experienced. So I felt like it was the time to fight. And
mm,
Jeff is a great fight. So it's the kind of fight that can make all the fans remember why I'm here, why I'm number 6, what's my style, what I bring to the division. I might not be that guy that is talking trash all over the place, but I'm going in there and putting on one of the best fights in the division. And I believe I'm one of the, if not the biggest finisher right now, one of the biggest finishers at the top of the division. So yeah, I think that's what I gain. I get to go out there, do what I do, and show everyone again who's Vicente Luque, who's the silent assassin, and what I'm here for. And I'm here to become the champion.
I can remember the first time we spoke, I declared to you that I think you're the most entertaining fighter in the UFC. I still do to this day, given the amount of finishes and given the fact that even when you don't finish, it's still a very entertaining fight. But do you feel a pressure in any way to be entertaining? Do you feel a pressure to perform for the fans and to put on the show for the crowd?
Honestly, I do, but I think it's good pressure.
Mm,
It's the pressure that makes me kind of go after it in there. I think that winning is a very big factor for me. I always want to win. I
mm,
want to be the best fighter, but more than that, I want to, have be remembered by the fighter I am. And I
mm,
think that going in there and putting on the best fights, going out there and fighting the way the fans want to watch it, that's something that is even more important for me than winning. So I gotta, have that balance between going out there and fighting the way I do and still getting the win, still getting, to move up and go for the title. But it's something that it's good. It's a pressure that just, I think that makes me better and makes me take all of this much more seriously.
Of course. I'd like to ask you about a fight in your division that got booked last week against the guy that you have been petitioning to fight, Nate Diaz, who will be facing off against Khamzat Chimaev. Are you of the same opinion as most of the fan base that this is going to be an easy night's work for Chimaev, or do you see Nate Diaz putting up a stronger fight than some people expect?
I mean, I'm always gonna expect Diaz to put on a tough fight. He's very durable. He has great conditioning. He still has his tricky, tools. But I would never put him as favorite for this fight. I mean, not realistically right now with how the division is moving, with what Chimaev has showed. I mean, watching the fight against Gilbert, I know who Gilbert is. I know how tough he is. And Chimaev went in there and survived, and at the end of the day, he got a win, and that shows a lot. I know how tough Gilbert is. I know that if I were gonna say who's at a higher level right now, Gilbert or Nate, Gilbert all day. He's at a much higher level. So when I see that, yeah, I gotta put Chimaev as a favorite. I'm not gonna take Diaz's tools. He still can go out there and surprise everybody. But if I had to put money, I don't think I would put it on Diaz. I think it would be a big paycheck if he won, but I don't know. It's a tough one. I think Chimaev at this moment is looking better.
I know that you share Sanford MMA with Shavkat Rakhmonov, the prospect who's just got the win over Neil Magny. I think he's broken into the top 10 with that win, or if not, he's certainly in the top 15. How good is Shavkat? There's a lot of hype behind him. There's a lot of media push and fan interest in Shavkat. How good? Haven't seen him in the room. How good is Shavkat Rakhmonov?
He's really good. I've trained with him. I've mostly grappled with him, but I've seen him sparring a lot. I sparred him a few rounds, but we were always in different moments. Like I was not in training camp, and he was right at the last weeks of training camp, so he wasn't going with everybody, mostly with guys that had the style of his opponent. But I got to grapple with him, and he's a beast in grappling, and he's super technical striking. I've watched him on the pads with Henry Hooft. And yeah, he's a beast. He definitely is a beast. No wonders that's why he's in top 15 and has gotten there so quickly. And yeah, another product of Sanford MMA is the welterweight division. That shows a lot of promise for sure.
Have you ever looked across the room and think maybe one day I could get a contract with his name on it? Have you ever kind of sized them up?
I mean, that happens all the time. That's something that we can't avoid as fighters. We know that eventually we're gonna have to fight each other, and it's something that in a way it doesn't bother me. I don't mind like training with guys that I'm gonna fight. Obviously not for that specific training camp, but in other moments for me it's just it is what it is. We're not gonna get much from training against each other. I mean, my main the biggest fight I want is against Kamaru Usman, and I've trained years with him. We know a lot about each other from training. But that, is totally different when it's fight night. So yeah, I think one day it can happen, and if it does, it is what it is. That's how Sanford is right now. So much talent, so many good guys. We could be seeing guys like Logan and Jason Jackson, for example, fighting for that Bellator title. So yeah, it's how it works. That's part of the game, and I think that because we are a newer sport, the MMA hasn't been here as long as other sports. It's something new. It's something that people see like, okay, now these guys train together, they're going to have to fight. But it is what it is. We got to get used to it, because when big teams like Sanford come along, we're going to have all these guys developing, getting all the way to the top, and then we're going to have to see who's the best.
Would you like a tough question?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. The tough question I will ask you is, we know you and Gilbert Durinho Burns would never fight each other. Is he the only person in the UFC you would never fight, or is there someone else who you've got too sacred of a bond with, too much between you, or is Gilbert the only man on your list you'd never fight?
No, Gilbert is the only man. Gilbert is the only one, definitely.
Definitely. Fair enough. I completely understand. I'd like to finish very quickly by talking about, for those watching this who don't know, Vicente and his wife Carol had a baby boy last year, Bento, who's
Yep.
just turned one, there or thereabouts, 1 year of age.
He's 1 and 2 months.
1 and 2 months. What is it like having a less than 1 year old baby through training camp? How much does training camp change to kind of suit his needs in terms of feeding, in terms of getting up early for, when he maybe is struggling to sleep? How much has training camp been adjusted with Bento's arrival?
It has been a challenge, that's for sure. It changed a lot, but it's funny. I don't know how to describe it, but being a dad just gave me much more energy as well. So, all the work, and I got to tell you, it's a lot of work. Everybody that doesn't have a kid yet, before I used to say, oh, that must be awesome. It is awesome, but it's a lot of work. But it's something that at the same time, you kind of like, you just make it happen, And I remember the first fight that I had after he was born was against Chiesa. And he was just like 1 month, 2 months. And he would wake up a lot at night, and my wife would help me out a lot with that, So that's a big thing also, I gotta be super grateful for having the wife I do that understands, that I have to go and rest up for my training camp and everything. But at the same time, I gotta do my part, I cannot just be there and enjoy the good part and do nothing of the hard work. So as I, whenever I can, I go and do what I can, especially after fights. That's when I really try to dedicate myself to being the best that I can and just enjoying the process, because even like the hard parts are things that we're going to miss later, now it's totally different than when he was 2-3 months, and I miss that. And it was at the point I would go crazy sometimes, but I miss it now, because now he walks by himself, he goes do his things. Sometimes he wants to just, stay alone, playing with his toys. And I'm like, before he wanted to be with me all the time. Now he doesn't even mind. So yeah, it's something that we got to enjoy. It's challenging, but I think overall it's just more energy and more motivation also, because now I know that I do all of this, not just for me, also for my wife, and now for my kid, and for him to have the best future he can.
Of course. Well, I think that's the best place for us to end, with the thought of you getting a second victory. Now Bento is in the world in just under 2 weeks' time. So Vicente, thank you for your time as always. It's always a pleasure to get some time with you, and I look forward to seeing you back in action on the 6th of August.
Perfect. Thank you. Really appreciate the time. And yeah, 6th of August, I'm going to go out there, do what I do, put on a great show, and look for another finish as always. Let's go.
Before we finish, Vicente, how can people find you on social media, and any sponsors you'd like to plug? The floor is yours for the last word.
Yeah, so they can look for me Instagram. Just look for Luque Vicente, and everywhere else, if you just put my name, Vicente Luque, you'll find me. And yeah, that's it.
Make sure to subscribe to the Low Kick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.